Good morning, folks, from the Western Cape. This is Chris. More interesting news this morning out of the ANC government led by Cyril Ramaphosa. So the Office of the Presidency of Vincent Monwenya said that the appointment of the Special Envoy Jonas to the United States is not going to be a problem. All is forgiven. You see, Donald Trump doesn't hold grudges. What planet are these guys on? Donald Trump doesn't hold grudges. Really? Is this the same Donald Trump that we know serves as President of the United States? Well, in fact, Donald Trump does hold grudges. Now, the example they give of Trump not holding a grudge is Marco Rubio and Brent Bozell saying that, well, they would never be part of his cabinet and his appointed officers if Trump held grudges. But let's put this in context. Both of them, it's from 2016, and both of them, well, Marco Rubio was a political opponent, and Trump was doing what Trump always does. He's belittling his opponents to get advantage in the election. And it worked. Little Marco, lying Ted, he's close to both those folks because it was simply pure political stunt to get in office. We know that. It wasn't any personal animosity, and neither Rubio nor Brent Bozell or even Ted Cruz called Donald Trump a racist, homophobe bigot. That's what Jonas said about Donald Trump. So Donald Trump forgiving people, I don't know about that. Now, one thing that has been said, Jonas went to great lengths in 702 interview to tell people that he said these things in his private capacity. Now, I've said the same thing. In your private capacity, you have free speech. You can say what you want. You can be as dumb and as stupid as you like to be in your private capacity. The difference between him and Ibrahim Rasool is Ibrahim Rasool was a sitting ambassador who had his credentials accepted by Washington, D.C., and you're expected to act with a certain decorum, which he failed to do. But Jonas' case, he was a private citizen at the time, speaking at an event, and he can say what he wants. But speech has consequences. And if you really think that Donald Trump, in the current environment, after the United States being insulted by the selection of Ibrahim Rasool, who did exactly what we expected him to do, followed through with his bigotry and race hustling, didn't take him long to do it, got himself kicked out of the country within a few weeks after being appointed. After that incident, which was intentionally insulting the United States, now we have another incident in which we're having someone who has a personal animosity, and not just animosity. He didn't say Trump is stupid, Trump has bad policies. He called him a homophobe with no evidence whatsoever. He called him a racist with no evidence whatsoever. In South Africa, that's a crime. That's a criminal act. That's criminal injuria. So the government of South Africa is endorsing the crime of criminal injuria by sending a special envoy to the United States. This seems to be lost by all analysts here. Look, I think it's a bit silly. You can sue everybody for every little silly thing, but that is the law here in South Africa. Just like you don't have free speech, you can't say things like the K word, especially if your skin is a bit pale and you're getting irradiated like I am right now. You can't say things like that. Others can say them, and they say them all the time. In the press can print the word. People of certain pigmentation can say what they like, but others can't. So you don't have free speech here. But the bottom line is, it's the law here in South Africa. And what Jonas did was commit criminal injury against Donald Trump. Now, that would be thrown out because Trump was a public figure. Fair enough. I won't dispute that. But how on God's green acre do you think it's a wise idea to send a guy who has such rabid, angry, personal animosity towards Donald Trump? Now, Jonas can claim that, well, he was just playing a role. It was the words at the time. No, you don't say those things. And look, I have personal concerns and I have grievances with the conduct of Cyril Ramaphosa, but I don't run around calling him vile names like that. I've said he's not very bright, but that's an analysis. That's not a personal opinion. Anyway, these people are not reading the room. And once again, they're on a completely different level, completely different game than Donald Trump is playing. They are playing checkers with Barney Fife in Mayberry, while Donald Trump is playing 4D chess with Jean-Luc Picard on the Enterprise. They're not even close together. As I said in an interview which I gave to Engineering News yesterday, you can find the link to that interview below this video. As I said in that interview, Jonas is going to find it difficult to get an office call. He may be over there and he may ask for appointments. He might even get appointments. But he's not going to achieve what the South African government needs to be achieved. South Africa needs a high-level, responsible, cogent, lucid, objective, and honest diplomat and team of diplomats to go to America to talk about the tariffs, to talk about the African Growth Opportunity Act, and to discuss the current situation where the ANC government continues to antagonize the Trump administration intentionally. It has now been approaching almost 3 months since Trump's executive order on the 7th of February 2025. Not a single South African diplomat has engaged U.S. government over that executive order, which cut off $500 million of annual foreign assistance to South Africa. Is this not a problem in South Africa? Do you have an extra $500 million sitting around? If so, why have you been milking us for the past 30 years of $500 million if you've got the money? The answer is no. South African society doesn't have the spare money. It's devastating to the community. It's devastating to those in the HIV services programs. It's devastating to gender-based violence programs. It's devastating to South African trade. It is absolutely frustrating for South Africans. And the South African government has taken no steps whatsoever to repair this breach. None. Zero. In fact, they've done everything they can to antagonize the Trump administration. At the moment, South Africa is illegally a participant in the African Growth Opportunity Act. You cannot be in it if you abrogate property rights. And that's what the South African government has done. They've abrogated property rights with the signature in February, which was actually signed in December, by Ramaphosa on the Expropriation Without Compensation Act, which is in clear contravention of Section 25 of the South African Constitution. But by doing so, they made themselves no longer eligible for participation in AGOA. A key tenet is respect for private property rights, which are no longer respected in this country. It doesn't matter whether they confiscate land or they expropriate land. It doesn't matter. The mere fact that the law allows for it means they don't respect property rights, and it can be used by the government of the day to abuse others. So, the fact that Trump hasn't kicked you out of AGOA, although at this point with the tariffs have been imposed, it's really a fait accompli, and it has to be renewed in September anyway. But the point is that Trump has taken no action against South Africa, yet the South African government continues to run around and lie to people, saying that there are sanctions on South Africa. There are no sanctions. We have podcasters and independent analysts who are claiming there are targeted people that are going to get individual sanctions against them. That may be true, but nobody has that information. That's speculation. It may be accurate speculation, but the bottom line here is that the Office of Presidency's Vincent Magwenya is whistling past the cemetery. If he thinks that the appointment of Mcabezi Jonas to the States to be a special envoy is going to accomplish anything other than getting frequent flyer miles to and from Cape Town and DC for Jonas, he's drinking something. He's eating something he should be eating because it's affecting his judgment. This isn't going to improve the situation, folks. The situation between the United States and the South African diplomatic is not going to improve under the current circumstances. You need to send someone cogent, lucid, who has their head in the game, not someone who intentionally insults Donald Trump. It's just not going to work. Trump is forgiving, but he's forgiving of his political opponents, not of people who act like fools. At this stage, now months into the Trump presidency, February, March, April, 3 months, nearly 90 days in, it seems like the South African government is addicted to friends and family only Fridays, when Donald Trump makes announcements periodically on Fridays that are detrimental to South Africa's well-being, and to South Africans' well-being. Whatever the case is here, folks, this ain't going to get it done. Ain't going to get it done. In the past, the ANC has appointed people outside their party, like Tony Leon, to be an ambassador to Argentina. And he did the job well representing South Africa, not the ANC. You need someone to go to DC that represents South Africa, not the ANC. And until you come up with that solution, things are going to get worse and worse. And if you think that Tehran, Beijing, Moscow, Brasilia, Riyadh are coming to your rescue, well, maybe you know something we don't know. But there's no indication they're going to save you and give you $500 million per year, $20 billion of trade, value-added trade, and represent your interest in the World Bank and the IMF. No one else can do that except the United States. So, repair the breach or keep sending Mamparas to DC. It's your choice, Cyril. It's your choice. What say you, South Africa? What say you?